arguably one of the most talented individuals I've ever been around. And he taught me this lesson that you don't need to be a jerk. There's a way to do it. There's a way to bring people in and say, follow me, and do it with sincerity and humanity. And it doesn't need to be aggressive or abrasive. It doesn't need to be, it can actually be pleasant.
You just heard the voice of executive chef and partner of 25 Lusk in San Francisco, Matthew Dolan. It was such a pleasure to speak with him and to learn about his life in Finland, growing up in New York City, and then making a beautiful life in San Francisco and having one of the most incredible and iconic restaurants, 25 Lusk. If you've ever had the pleasure of speaking with chefs and two at the same time, like today, is so much fun. And with my co-host, Chef Adam Malley, and myself, Kristy Whitford, welcome to the Hotel Club podcast.
Kristy, please meet Chef Matthew Dolan. Chef Dolan is a very good friend of mine. He has talked me off the ledge more times than I can count. If I had a nickel for every time he's done that, I could probably retire right about now.
You didn't need me. We all just need to vent. You never needed me. We all just need to vent.
He is a very distinguished and decorated chef, having earned a Michelin star in Finland and opening up the immensely popular 25 Lusk, which is, I would venture to say, it's iconic at this point. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, you know how to make a boy blush, that's for sure. Look, I mean, it's one of the biggest things about this business is, we ask ourselves, why do we do it? And what's the point and all that good stuff. But, we're not curing cancer and we're not changing the world, but we have a pretty unique platform to create memorable experiences, to change the human condition, whether it's the best day of someone's life or the worst, a special event or a terrible event. We have an opportunity to give them a place of refuge and to either soften the blow or enhance what was already pretty special to begin with, and that's the stuff that keeps me coming back for more. And, no day is ever perfect. And the work itself is unreasonable. As long as you're willing to accept that, you go in, there's so many beautiful tenets to the end result of what we do. Getting there is the hard part. And if you can deal with the nonsense, and if you can deal with the flooding bathrooms and the people calling out sick and the guy who shows up all messed up on drugs and the meat order that the guy forgot to place and now you're scrambling. If you can get through the chaos, literally the chaos, and get to that moment where the curtains are drawn and the lights are up and it's showtime, I mean, that's it. Behind the scenes, that's what's the hardest part. But once the curtain's drawn, if you're prepared and ready, we're making people happy. We're making people smile, and we're building teams and careers. And you have to believe in it. Everyone, the chefs that I know that talk about what they did, that was yesterday. We're defined, I think, by what we do today and what we're going to do tomorrow. And you have to believe and you have to keep trying. And ideally, if you're like me, you pray for a heart attack in your mid-50s so that you go out with fireworks. That's it. A story worth telling. You on the line when he dropped down in the middle of service? I was. That's the stuff we're after.
Well, except for the heart attack part of that, the myocardial infarction section there, you sounded a lot like a spa director, which leads me to the next segue.
Take that back.
I'm going to introduce you to our other host, Kristy Whitford, who I had the privilege of working with at Mandarin Oriental. And then everything else that came after that, I don't care. She apparently ran a very successful spa at the Beverly Hills Hotel, did a bunch of other amazing things that are too numerous to mention at this particular time. Is also an amazing person. Started this podcast for the reasons of reaching out to other people in the hospitality industry and getting people together, which is what we do, sometimes even for heart attacks.
Thank you, Chef. That was a really nice introduction. And I'm so honored to meet you. Do I say Matthew or Matt?
Matthew or whatever. dummy,
Chef
chef.
Matthew, it's
You
so
pick
nice
one.
to meet
Yeah,
you.
it's
When we
nice to meet you as
started
well.
talking about this, he was like, I got to talk to Matthew. I got to get him on the show. We got to talk about this. He
Oh, this is
sings your
fun.
praises, so it's such a
Well,
privilege to meet you.
at least there's one. Yeah, no, it's nice to meet you as well. No, this is great and good for you. I love the impetus of, a hospitality focused conversation. And Adam told me a little bit about it. So I'm all yours, I'm answer questions, tell stories, ask questions, I'm with you. This is great.
Probably one of the things our listeners want to hear is especially having your gorgeous restaurant there in San Francisco, a city that I absolutely love and adore and have spent
Mm,
most of my life in. I think people want to know who you are and how did you start this amazing journey into
okay.
creating your life and then into 25 Less.
Well, I was born without a shred of athletic ability, and that starts there. And so
Fantastic.
hanging out with my mom, who was quite amazing in the kitchen and had a catering business for a while, when the normal kids were out playing sports and doing kid things, I was standing in front of a cutting board having a hell of a lot more fun with her than I would have had failing with them. And it grew. And so, I didn't come from the castle on the hill, but we never wanted for anything growing up. And I remember being 14 years old and saying that when I turn 16, I'm going to buy a car. And I had all these things I was going to do. And the adults laughed at me. This was around a Thanksgiving table. And I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to show you. Uh, so I washed dishes. Immediately, the the energy and confusion of the professional kitchen became an obsession. I looked forward to going to work. I mean, I was a kid, so I was working on weekends and holidays and I couldn't wait to get back to work. And I'm mopping floors and I'm cleaning out fryers and I'm doing all the work that I that I still do because that's the job. But
Right.
the but I was part of something that I didn't understand. I went through the ranks, and I'm old enough to tell you stories about working for free, for
Mhm.
staging for people who have spoons named after them
We're
for
still
free.
doing it.
I know. Did it because I believed in something that I still believe in, and that is creating beautiful guest experiences. But I saw the individual, the human, the conductor of this metaphorical orchestra. I couldn't fathom how that person kind of was able to pull all of these moving pieces together. And I said, I need it. I want to know. And I think there are some in the business that are naturals. They were born with it. They're just inherently creative and wired for this. I don't think I'm one of them. I'm a long study. And
Yeah.
when I finally had my first um, opportunity to run a kitchen, it was terrifying. It was the
Was
scariest
it?
thing ever.
What
Yeah,
was
God, it
what
was
was
so
the
scary
scariest thing about it?
that I was in charge and
Besides
that
the
all eyes
knives, of
were on
course.
me. No, they're not. At that point, you can't feel your fingers anymore, so you're not worried about the knives. But no, it's about all these younger guys and girls. It's about the service team. It's about the guests are on their way, and it is that sort of theater mentality where the curtains are now drawn, the lights are up, and you're standing in the middle of the stage. And if you screw it, if anybody screws it up, it's on you. And
Yeah.
hopefully you've done your job. You've trained them well, you're prepared, you have enough of everything you need, you've practiced, you've tasted, and you're confident that you're going to make people happy. Things do happen. So the scariest part was acknowledging the fact that I had a lack of experience in that sort of level of leadership, but also resting upon the fact that I've been doing it at that point for so long that I was confident that I would give it my all and grow in the role. And 30 some odd years later, I still get the jitters when service starts. I still get that little, okay, places, everybody places kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's less daunting than it used to be, but there's so, I think the more you do it, and the more you can survive this business, the more you can evolve and you can pass it on. I think that's a really big part of it as well.
Do you find that like a performer, right? So your first day of service that you are the executive chef in the kitchen. You are the conductor. Do you find that in that day, all those jitters that were coming up, do you find at the end of the day that you are emotional in any way
Oh,
once you've
absolutely.
closed up that last ticket? What does that feel like?
Um, I don't know. I'm sure at some point I'll pass a kidney stone. I think it's something like that emotionally. A watermelon through a garden hose. I don't know. It is a. I think it's a sense of relief and euphoria. But if I am still one of these sort of old fashioned guys where it's still you're left with okay, that went well, we made it.
Yeah.
That happens again tomorrow. What can we do better? So in the emotional moment, it's definitely there, and you breathe it in and you try to figure it out. But then you don't have the time to kind of dwell in the moment. You have to then transition to okay, what do we have to do tomorrow? Like, let's do this again, and how can we do it better tomorrow? And I'm a believer that you have to do that every day. Like you do
Yeah.
every day. You don't rest. You don't drop your keys and say, all right, that was a day. I'm walking out of here. You don't end that moment. You enjoy the emotion or you don't, depending. Your focus has to be on transitioning to the next day. You have to. And I think asking yourself, what can we do to improve? And especially like because it's human serving humans. I mean, there's such an element of kind of assessing the team. It's not about my emotions because really I don't matter. I can't do it alone. The team is what
Right.
matters. So look at the team and say, okay, who's loving it, who's high fiving, and who's fighting tears in the corner. Well, I'm going to the corner to find out why we're fighting tears, and then I got to fix that one first, right? I need
Yeah.
to make sure my team wants to come back to work. I mean, I mean, and Chef Adam, I'm sure you'll hopefully agree with me, but one of the hardest parts about the job is making people want to come to work. Because if everybody wants to come to work, you have a fighting chance. You know what I mean? That's here to
Yeah,
really, that's a long answer to your question about the moment of emotion.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's not my emotion that matters. It's the emotions of the others
Yeah.
and
actually, you
regrouping
know
your
what?
team.
I did disagree with one thing you said.
What?
Well, yeah, I know. I can, well, I'm not at work, so I can do this. Where I disagree with you is your emotion does matter because your emotion translates into the team and they're going to pick it up from you. And so you're driving the culture, you're driving the kitchen and making it so that they want to come back to work. They want to see what you're going to teach them. They want to see what you're going to do and what you're going to let them do. And so your emotion is a very crucial part of the whole process. That's the only part I disagreed with. Everything
No,
else,
and that's a valid point. Um,
Yeah.
but I like the way that you disagree with me, and we can still be friends. But the no, I like it because we're going to the same place. I guess the ideal is the same. It's my maybe it's a knee jerk answer, but it's also I don't view my importance. I think a lot of people can do my job. I take great pride and pleasure in hearing that our guests are happy, but I take even greater pride and pleasure in knowing that my team feels positive about being part of what we're doing. So
Well,
how you get there,
I think you're just a
I don't
true
know.
leader. You know, you
Well,
say, yeah, you're a student, but also you're one of those unicorn leaders that actually do care about everybody else. And then you're the one that feeds everybody first and then yourself. That is a dynamic leader. You're one of a kind.
no,
Oh,
I
it's
think
a
that's
privilege to meet you.
no, 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 oh no,
This
God, here
is
I am
this
blushing
is really
again.
great, but then you don't I get the emotion part, like, I ask that because whenever I've seen a singer go on stage, that first show, you don't know if people are really gonna wanna listen to you, and the way that you described it, the symphony, the orchestra of how everyone is doing something collectively,
Mhm.
it's, you pour a lot into what you do, people don't think of food like that. I personally happen to absolutely be obsessed with food and the
Mhm.
whole process of it. So I look at it like, wow, this is magic, right? And then to pour all the energy into each person that's there, you can't help but feel a little emotional about it. It's so great to hear that you really are concerned about your team and then the experience of the people that are tasting your food. And
Yeah,
then there really isn't time for pause. You're just on to the next day.
that's right.
That seems
No,
like
that's
that's
right. I mean, I've worked in growing up, especially in the early '90s. It was a culture of fear, discipline. If you wanted to move up, you stayed in your lane. You did what you were told. You executed perfectly, and you did so because the consequences of not doing it the way you were told, they were pretty severe. And the whole notion of people's mental health, of team building, it didn't matter. We were fighting for that job. The minute you were hired, you knew that there were 40 professionals that wanted your spot. So you didn't just fight to grow in the profession. You fought to keep your spot on that team. And it's archaic, and it's counterproductive, and it's damaging. That's why a lot of people get out of the business. But there's another way. And I worked for a chef, a guy on Nantucket Island. That was a long time ago, but he's arguably one of the most talented individuals I've ever been around. And he taught me this lesson that you don't need to be a jerk. There's a way to do it. There's a way to bring people in and say, follow me, and do it with sincerity and humanity. And it doesn't need to be aggressive or abrasive. It doesn't need to be, it can actually be pleasant. And I saw him in action. And I had one instance in that kitchen. I was a sous chef in that kitchen, and the crew didn't show up for work. Now, their arrival time was 5 o'clock in the morning, and we were doing a brunch service, and I set up the line alone, and we had a little busy brunch in front of us, and I had the thing set up. We were ready to go. Chef shows up. He's like, uh-oh. I said, can you just expedite, please? Get these dishes to our guests. About a half an hour later, the crew strolls in, still smelling like the Irish pub from the night before.
Oh, no.
And I did the meanest thing. I lined them up. I said, stand against the wall and watch.
Oh, no.
Looks at me and he said, Matthew, are you sure about this? I said, no. And he said, I'll expedite. He's like, but just be careful. He said, I'll get your back on this. And I did. I made him watch and ran around like an idiot, did the job. Services through. Guests were happy. I pulled the crew in. I said, now go clean it up, you knuckleheads. And chef said, all right, come to my office. Go to his office. He said, what the hell did you just accomplish? Did you show everybody that you're a better line cook? They knew that already. You've been doing it longer. They made a mistake. They were kids. You've done something like that before, probably. And all you did was push them away. He said, why don't you go down and clean with them? Explain your thought process and hear what they have to say. Maybe they have an apology in them, and maybe you could be a good guy. And I was like, damn it. I hate when people are right and I'm wrong. So I did that. It worked, and the guys, that never happened again, that team. But that was one of those things where it's like that was the transition of the old guard to the more modern and more thoughtful way of hospitality and management and leadership in hospitality. Oh, we have to look out for each other. You can't just be a brute. What a terrible answer. Adam's shaking his head right now, I think.
No. I don't know. I probably would have done the same thing.
See, I knew I liked you. Here we go.
I've done the same thing, but in different way, in context. Like your kitchen is far different because you're hands-on. In the spa, I think I've had team members show up that smelled like not an Irish bar, but maybe a vodka soda. Yeah, for sure. Where I'm like, wow, okay, that's definitely not going to be a very aromatic scent today for our guests to smell.
It's not very soothing. It's more
but
it raises questions.
I think sending people home is not obviously fun, or having them stand and watch you operate, but it's definitely a means to an end for them to get the point. But I mean, that part of making that decision, that takes so much certainty, and for people to understand and no longer take you for granted, right? And really show up and be a part of the team instead of throwing everything on you. That's not fair either. But
but again, that was a long time ago.
That's incredible though that you did that.
No, I don't know.
Have you done that, Chef?
Oh, Adam, that's a good question.
Adam, have you done that?
So in that similar situation, I've had people come in hungover and begging to go home or pass out, and I've forced them to work because I have very little sympathy for that. There was a choice involved. You made the choice, and you have to live with the consequences. And so I have not been, I guess, gentle with people who have made the wrong choice in that field. Now, there have been people who have legitimately been ill, and absolutely go get healed, get better. But if you went out last night, you partied, and you had a responsibility to show up for work, you're working. I don't care if you need to go throw up in the garbage can over there.
Oh my God.
But you're doing it. and it's actually come to kind of a there was a bit of a contention there with a couple of people who were appalled that I actually made them stay. And I'm like, no, you're staying. And if you don't like it, you can go home and quit, be hungover the next day and unemployed, or you could be hungover and employed. Again,
I mean, coffee and Advil are kind of amazing products, like a greasy egg sandwich, a good old cup of coffee, some Advil. Come on, make an effort,
That's like 3 of the 4 major food groups you described right there.
Yes.
I think Pop-Tarts are the other one.
Oh yeah. This is his what is it that you call it?
My guilty pleasure.
His guilty pleasure is a Pop-Tart. Can you believe it?
I can. Pop-Tarts are fantastic. And I hate when people try to make Pop-Tarts because they're never the same. Don't call them Pop-Tarts, call them something else. But I don't know what happened. So I went on iHeartRadio recently, and I was sitting there in the studio, and they had a box of organic Reese's peanut butter cups. And when I was a kid, I liked them. But regular peanut butter cups from the Reese's people are loaded with genetically modified ingredients. These were organic. And I was like, come on, is that a thing? It's unfortunate how many peanut butter cups I am consuming in a week now. It is my guilty
That
pleasure.
makes 2 of you.
Sad to say.
You're both doing the same thing.
Can I make a recommendation though?
Yes, please.
If you're in the area and you pass by a Trader Joe's, they have these little peanut butter cups that are like tiny.
Trader Joe's is gonna call us now.
They're like Reese's peanut butter cups, only really, really small. And the thing is, you eat about maybe 12 times the amount of a Reese's peanut butter cup because they're so good. But you think,
because you
I'm
can't,
just having a couple.
You have no idea what you're doing. I don't know. I think that's a bad idea because I feel like I wouldn't be able to measure myself. If I open the package and there's 2, I'm like, okay, that's enough. But if there's tons of little ones, I have no. It's like drunk driving, but candy. It's anyway.
But it's kind of like if you Bear Keller did a Reese's peanut butter cup, that's what you would get, and then you eat like 20 of them.
All right. Well, I keep that in mind. But
he's gonna have a peanut butter cup on his menu soon. Can we talk about your food that's on your menu there at 25 Lusk? I looked at the menu and it made me drool inside of my kitchen earlier. I was just dying to look at everything.
His food, as the kids say, bomb.
Well,
you just did that. No, yeah, I'm a weirdo, a mix of an East Coaster who lived overseas and came to California. I kind of realized that maybe my place in the world of cooking was kind of a meeting of all 3 where, I was in Finland where they don't even have 4 seasons and they don't have the same bounty of agriculture. The products are very different. The story is very different. On the East Coast, the Northeast, you have 4 clear seasons. So the similarity there is you become a little bit more technique driven to maximize what you have, and then you come to the West Coast, and I'm not saying there isn't technique, but what you have such incredible product and such long seasons that employing technique oftentimes is considered getting in the way of the natural beauty of what's been handed to you. Again, with this sort of like classical French training and a combination of these techniques, but also then embracing sort of where do I go? It's winter now, so I'm going to employ more technique. Summer, spring, I'm going to honor the ingredient showcase and try to build something that supports the ingredient, not to confuse them. I think there's one of my favorite challenges in writing a dish or creating something is making sure that if I build, whether it's a soup or a composed plate, I want my guests to be able to taste everything that's in there, but to build it in sequence, to build layers, and that comes with seasoning, knowing how to use acidity, knowing when to sauce, knowing when to back off. And that's been my California challenge for 17 years is technique versus the inherent beauty of the ingredient, and how do you take that classical training and bring them together without being pretentious and still being sort of approachable to the dining culture. And I don't know, that's also not a great answer, but
Well,
You're
you
doing
covered a
great.
lot.
oh, thank you so much.
It leads to another question, and this is terribly embarrassing. And I think I asked you this many times. We're both native New Yorkers, and we made it out to California somehow in some way, and we have a story there. And I know you told me. I think I probably was drunk when you told me, and I forgot. But
no.
how did you
gin.
end up out here? Like we
I'll tell
met.
you.
I remember meeting you.
Yeah, no, it's a quick one. I'll make it
years ago.
I'm being, yeah, that's right. I After culinary school in New York City, then culinary school and some more New York City, I was randomly recruited by a guy named Emeril Lagasse, who was just getting on the Food Network, had become who won the Best Chef James Beard Award, and he was legitimate, and I'd never been to New Orleans. I knew a little bit about the history and the French, the Acadians, the criminal story, the piracy, and I was like, I should just go do this. And I was, tragically single in my 20s, so I had nothing to lose, and I packed up my one bag and my knives and went to New Orleans, and did that for a while, and then I more and more I thought about it, I was asking myself, like, what are my two professional deficiencies? And one was I couldn't bake bread very well, and I didn't know wine at all. And so I was like, well, okay. And so I knew a guy, a culinary school buddy, who was in the Napa Valleys. So I moved to the Napa Valley. And when you're 25 years old and single in St. Helena, California, circa who knows when, a long time ago, you can learn a lot about wine, and you better love it. But I made it about a year, and I said, oh God, it was terrible. I don't know. I was talking to myself a lot and
Yeah, it's a
picking
very
mustard
lonely life.
greens. My God, I had a car. It was weird. And I was driving out to the ocean to go eat oysters by myself. And I was like, I remember my dad called me one day, and I had my very first cell phone, the analog one that was orangey. And yeah. So I'm driving out, I'm crossing Sonoma County, my phone rings, and my dad, called me Matt. Matt, what are you doing? I said, actually, Dad, today I'm romancing myself. I'm going to have oysters on the shore, and then I'm going out I have a dinner reservation for one. I bought a candle. So yeah, no, that was like, so I got to get out of the Napa Valley. So in between, I had worked on Nantucket Island for this guy, Chef Chris Freeman, one of the best, unsung hero in the profession. And then the same friends were still out here. I came back a couple times to visit, just to have fun. And when I was in Finland, and it was time to leave Finland, I didn't want to go back to New York. Didn't know what to do. And same friends were in San Francisco working for the Pat Coletto group at the time, and they said, just come out here and check it out. So same two bags. This is like 10 years later, 12 years later, and which is a sad story. And then I show up, and I lived on a couch and poked around and said, all right, I fell in love with San Francisco. I loved it, sort of like a city that's a community or a combination of villages. I loved that there was stuff to do. I love the food, the proximity to so much production. And there seemed to be a non-pretentious, genuine hospitality sort of feeling at the time. And I loved it. I said, I'll do this for a year, and 17 years later, two kids in a restaurant. Here I am, and it's like I've never lived anywhere as long as I've lived in San Francisco. So now I call it home. It's such a great city. I don't love what a lot of people are doing right now, especially national media. And it's probably why there's a certain television station that will never invite me back, because they came to do like the industry is dying piece. And I said, sure, no problem. I'd love to do that with you. 3 o'clock in the morning, we're filming on the roof. And the guy gave me my talking notes. I won't tell you who or what station, but I will send you a link to it. It's kind of fun.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I hijacked the minute.
Oh,
And I did this whole like San Francisco's tougher than she looks. Don't give up. Everybody evolves, everybody develops, everybody goes through tough times, and San Francisco could weather them all. 2008, 2017, and 2020, and we're still kicking, buddy. So
yeah.
don't give up faith, and I love it, and I'm so happy to be here and have a great day. And the guy looks at me and he's like, "What just happened?"
Oh my
We go up,
gosh.
we go off camera,
Bravo.
and the crew's clapping, and this guy's furious. He's like, "That what the hell happened?" I was like, "I don't know. I forgot what we were supposed to talk about." Anyway, needless to say, I won't be invited back. But no, I look, I think the hospitality industry is never easy. I'm happy to be here. It was the whole New Orleans to Napa to back to the East Coast to Finland to what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
And no, I'll wave the flag. As long as the key still fits in the door here at the restaurant, or as long as they don't lynch me.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's
Well, I
it.
love that about the fact that you love it, because I agree with you when it comes to the media and what people are saying about that city. It's personally like one of my favorite cities in the whole world.
Hmm.
And every time I've gone, regardless of the time and space, like I was there a couple weeks ago, I'll be there next weekend. So it's a beautiful place, and it's this big. It's so tiny.
Exactly.
It's so tiny, and there's a lot. And you said something so perfect about the city, that it is made up of a bunch of little villages.
Yeah.
And that's the best part. And I still think San Francisco does have some, if not the most amazing food in the country. Just
And
really
I
Oh, yeah,
fantastic.
without a
couldn't
doubt.
agree with you more.
Yeah. And
But it's
it's
also it's resilient. Its resiliency is something that what bugged me when you've got New York City media and some dummy in Miami and some other guy in Dallas saying, "Oh, it's a cesspool. San Francisco is post-apocalyptic." It's like, what are you talking about? Why are you
it's
picking on
not.
the little guy? Also, it's not. Why don't you
Yeah.
come
It's not
visit?
even a little guy. It's a major city. It's a great city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's got a great
totally.
culture. 49ers are going to win, and
I know.
then the city will get trashed. But that's another story.
Right.
That's not a sad story. That's a celebration of victory. I was
But it will
just
be.
in
Oh, go
I
for
was
it.
just in Portland, Maine yesterday, and I was having a conversation with somebody as I was eating a lobster roll, and he asked me, where do you live? And I said, I live in the Bay Area, and he goes, oh, you guys are getting hammered with crime, and there's all this homelessness. And I look out the window in Portland, Maine, and there's got to be about 15 people just sleeping in doorways in the middle
Yeah.
of the day, and I'm like, yeah, we're not the only place in the world
No.
with a lock on that.
Yeah. It's
And
everywhere. I mean,
nothing
it's
against
everywhere.
Portland. Portland's a beautiful, beautiful city. I love it. But
But
San Francisco. Go
but
ahead.
to
Sorry.
isolate San Francisco, claiming that it's that these are uniquely San Francisco, and I don't even when people call it like a homeless problem, it's a tragedy, it's a reality, it's not a problem, it's beyond that.
Shame.
These
Mhm.
are, and what drives me nuts also, especially in the food business, is the way how callous people can be when they say things like that, and you're just like, what do you? These are human beings. You have no idea how they ended up there, and you have no idea where they began. There's a guy that sleeps behind my restaurant, 30 years in the Marine Corps, and his benefits for what he honorably discharged, 3 tours overseas, and the guy collects bottles. So I let him in the back to my trash area, we help him load up the bottles so we can go a mile down the road and get money for him. And I and it's little thing like, but that's yeah, he's a homeless guy, but he's not a problem. He's a reality, and it's just sad. It's sad that the lack of compassion when people do stuff like that and
Well,
isolate a place like San Francisco.
Right.
it's all
Right.
over. It's actually a huge problem, and I'm not saying it in terms of a problem that the humans are the problem. Problem is that we're actually as a society letting this happen.
Yes.
I'm not getting on a
Yep.
soapbox here, but
Amen. No. I love it. Amen.
we are. It's just like you see them, and you're not looking at them precisely is what you just said. They're human beings. Something happened. They were let go of their job. I mean, situations happen that are above our control. In hospitality, um, we have an obligation, or we have a something in our DNA. We should take care of people like that. We should take care of. They're just like us. They're just it could be us actually. In
And
the
the thing
restaurant
is,
business, especially.
well, the system let him down, to be honest. Especially this guy who was who's a vet, and we started. The state of California imposed the food waste abatement policy enacted on the 1st of January, and it's only, I don't know, not everyone's totally familiar with it because you have to have a certain amount of guest accessible space, which I fall into the category. So I have to prove that I'm doing something to minimize food waste, which is, Adam and I both went on this James Beard chef boot camp, uh, these adventures to focus on stuff like that. And it really does open your eyes, because we live at a time of surplus and scarcity. And we throw $2.54 billion worth of, well, it costs us $2.54 billion to throw 40% of our food away annually, which is enough food to feed the globe 3 times over.
Wow.
Nonsense.
That's a lot.
And I'm actually very happy that Sacramento decided to push this through, and we did it. So we teamed up with a company called Replate, and they pick up twice a month. And then it kind of got the juices flowing a little bit. So, for example, I had a private event last night of about 80 people, and everybody ordered the same thing. So I'm left with extra stuff that I can't use. Well, not that I can't use, but that it would be irresponsible, but it's still good stuff yesterday. So we boxed a bunch of it up. We strolled down by the Caltrain station, and we dropped off boxes of food and just said,
Yeah.
no agenda. Just, I'd rather it goes to an actual someone in need than into the bin. So
Having worked in your kitchen, I know how meticulous you are about waste, and that gets into your crew. And I've seen your sous chefs, and you're exemplary when it comes to that.
Well, there's two things that I think that all chefs and all hospitality professionals need to think about. It's, if you are meticulous in your management of product and mitigating waste, there's a financial reward. Your food cost is going to be better. You're going to spend less on waste management. You're doing less of environmental impact, and you free up more storage. I've worked in kitchens where people just they pack the walk-in, and you're like, it's going to take us a week to get through this stuff. Like, what are you doing? So your cash in, cash out reality, and your ultimate financial performance, that's great. But also the environmental piece is something more important, because we've done a number on not only our food system, but our planet. And if everybody could kind of focus their lens there, they would realize the financial reality while doing something right from an environmental perspective as well. And if there's still something left over, give it directly to somebody in need, versus donating money to a charity where if you donate $1,000, $1 makes it to the actual person in need. There's direct things that people can do to be helpful and to be thoughtful. And my sous chefs and my team, they're on board because they see the numbers, they see the use of space, they see the rotation of product. We throw very little away. I mean, I'm at below 10% landfill right now on a 13,000 square foot building, and
Wow.
that took a while. That took a while, but it's also it makes, it's training, it's brainwashing, all that good stuff. So
That's incredible. I mean, your footprint is very small. And I mean,
considering, yeah.
are there any charities that you can mention to us right now that you're talking about, aside from what what Replate does? Is there a charity that people could give
Replate's great.
to?
This is a tricky one. I mean,
Yeah.
Replate and Food Runner in the Bay Area, Replate and Food Runners, they're kind of leading the charge.
Food Runners is backing out of this. I was trying to get connected with them when I was at my previous role, which shall remain nameless. But
can I say it? Can I say it? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
It was a great role. I was very happy to be there, and it was close to your restaurant, so I could come over and we can commiserate on a weekly basis. But
Yes.
Food Runners was backing out of it. I don't know why.
They just got, I think they got some state subsidy to stay in the game because um these people were, I think they were overwhelmed. So I'm being very flexible with our guys, and our they're supposed to pick up every other Thursday. They forget, the guy comes by the strangest hours. And we just work with them. We come up with ways to make sure they do that. And that's from a compliance standpoint. But I mean, my staff can take food home. We're giving food directly to homeless people around the neighborhood. We're we're not. I mean, I'm quite confident that our waste management strategy is where it should be right now, with the best we can do right now. Um, but I'm sure there's more that we can do. It's never perfect. So I have to keep
This
giving
is
it a
great.
shot.
This is good for locals to know that that is out there, though, in San Francisco. Thank you for
But the
sharing
thing,
that.
yeah, but the thing, there's also ways, like, I know that they're imposing the kind of like on the East Coast, the deposits for wine bottles. So now, like glass, where a lot of the waste management folks will tell you that, 80% of the stuff we throw in the blue bin ends up in landfill because it's not viable from a recycling standpoint. And that's sad. But now that there are initiatives to incentivize people to get money back, people are being careful. They're taking those wine bottles that are now worth a dime, and there's a place in San Francisco you can go and bag it up, and they'll sort it, they weigh it, or by the piece. I don't remember. And they get money, and that's great because it's less stuff going into the landfill. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, it's sad but true that people need to be motivated by money. It's a good motivator for most.
It's a good motivator. I'm in my current role. I'm working in other areas of the country. So on a positive note with San Francisco is we're leading the charge with this stuff
Yeah.
in terms of doing measurable things to fight our climate disaster. We're actually starting to walk the walk. There are people that are resistant to it, and that's everywhere. But in certain other states around the U.S., like there's no awareness.
No, no, no,
It's
no.
it's comical,
Something's
tragic,
garbage and something
tragic,
isn't.
and comical.
Yeah. Don't complicate the story. It's either garbage or it ain't. Oh, yeah,
It's
sorry,
true.
that was a little too telling. Um, yeah, and I
Compost?
like
What's
that.
that?
I like that. What'd you call me? The idea. I like Adam, the positive twist, because I think that's kind of tethers to the hospitality industry, whether the initiatives, things we can do. I think really that being a chef when you're a kid, you think you're going to run a kitchen, and then you're going to have this nice jacket with your name on it, and everyone's going to applaud you for your brilliance. But then you grow up and you realize it's teams, and then you realize you have to work every day for it. But then you realize your impact. You realize how much you purchase and how much you waste, and people's lives you affect, and what you can do. And then you have to make a decision as to, do you want to be on the right side of the conversation and do everything you possibly can and give it your all, and or do you want to be selfish and not care about stuff and iron your fancy coat every day? I don't know.
Yeah. Do you
So
think there's kind of like a fantasy when people see chefs, like what you just said, right? When you're a child and you see chefs in jackets and they just look so incredible, but you don't understand all the hard work. Do you think that even today that people have this way of looking at a chef
yes,
like it's just this fantasy?
I think that the dawn of the celebrity chef brought sort of an inaccurate possibility for a lot of people going to culinary school, who thought that when they graduated they'd work for somebody for a couple of years. A year later, here comes their book, and a year after that they'll have their own show. There was a it stopped. I don't know how to say this properly. I think it stopped being a tradesperson's mentality of earn your tools, apprentice, then you're allowed to take the next level where you can contribute. And until you're a smith of sorts, a food smith, you are a laborer, you're a tradesperson, and you had to earn it. I think
Yeah.
I think the patience for the process is massively less, and I think it's no longer viewed, well, maybe not for everybody. I can't speak in generality, but I think that people want it faster. I think, hey, during COVID, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and now I'm going to open a restaurant. I mean, there is some of that going on, and
Hmm.
I find it mind-boggling. And I know, I'm not going to say names, but I know of a restaurant that lasted 9 months for that very reason. Oh, I have my law degree and I raised all this money. I don't
Yeah.
care. Right? You might think that you're an intellectually superior. I don't know, but it requires something else. It's
Mhm.
much more complicated. So yeah, I still believe in the business, and I'm evolving with the times, but I worry about this sort of fandom and how it hits the industry. It gives a set, and I think it all goes back to anybody that's done this long enough knows that we're defined by what we do today and what we're planning on doing tomorrow. And yesterday is gone; it's lost. So move on.
Yeah.
You still learn from it. You can still be proud of what's happened, but you have to keep fighting. You have to keep moving.
Well, to your
Yeah.
point, it's a trade. It's something that
Yeah,
you have to develop skills. It takes years. It takes
mm-hmm.
years. There are people that uh, have an aptitude for learning. I would say some better than others, but it still takes time and respect and to be able to
And out.
develop a skill and learn something and show that you're worthy of having yourself taught something. That's kind of the key. And those who are in the industry will succeed with that mentality. The ones that come out and, I've had people graduate from culinary school, walk into the kitchen and tell me, oh, well, I'm a chef and this is how I do it. And
Wow. Do you think, because you're both chefs and you see this happening, right? With everyone from having a YouTube channel like Chef Matthew said, and to showing things on, say, Instagram and TikTok and putting these recipes together. Do you think this is going to impact the restaurant industry in the long run? Like what is the industry going to look
That's a
like,
heck of a
let's say
question.
15 years from now? What do you both think it's going to look like 15 years from now?
I think there's some staples that will stick around. I think there will always be a bar and grill. There'll always be a steakhouse. There'll always be an oyster bar. Um, I think
I
where
hope so.
Yeah.
too, but I mean, and these younger uh, professionals who are still giving a swing at high end fine dining. That's tougher than it ever was. Trends come and go. I've always said don't grab on to trends because they are just that. They come and go. Build
Mhm.
something that's made out of stone, something that can last. Be true to yourself. You're not going to win everyone. Somebody's going to say something mean about you online. Someone's going to think you're a hero online. Just stay true to yourself. Love what you do. Be honest. Keep working hard. And so I think that there's a core of the restaurant business that will always live. We're just going to keep seeing these rotating trends that will drive people like me a little nuts,
Yeah.
and so I try not to focus on them. I remember
Yeah.
foams. I tried about. There's some fun there, but it wasn't the thing for me. Everybody wants to put meat in plastic bags and sous vide. There's some brilliance in that, honestly. And so I actually learned how to do it. It took me a little while to get off my high horse, but it's also environmentally damaging. It's an excessive use of plastic. There's
Mhm.
stuff. So these things, and everyone talks about it. Oh, some guy came into the restaurant the other day and he's like, "Oh, I reverse seared this," and I
What?
know what he meant. Well, they put it in the oven raw and then they sear it in the pan after, versus searing something in the pan and putting in the oven next. Okay,
Okay.
great. And there's some logic behind it. I don't care.
Oh my.
I just thought it was a good opportunity to make fun of somebody and then throw in a dad joke. And I'll whatever some side view
Well,
mirror comment or something.
all
So
you need to do really is just get yourself an anti-griddle. You'll be all right.
Oh my.
right. Oh my goodness. So
So
what does the restaurant business look like in the future?
In
Who
the
knows?
fifth, yeah.
I hope it looks like this, and I hope that trendsetters realize that they're pop music, and the rest of us that are playing classical music will stick around.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. I like that.
I
Be
I
Just a
personally
thought.
think that the our situation, our environmental situation, is going to dictate more and more where we're going at some point. It's going to have to be addressed. To your point, the way excessive use of plastic and sous vide, excessive use of plastic wrap. I actually know a chef in Toronto who's developing an alternative to plastic wrap based on seaweed.
That's
And
smart.
I've been waiting
That's
for
so
something like
smart.
that for years because I look at all the plastic wrap we use and I'm like, oh my God,
Oh,
no
it's
wonder
amazing.
we're going to be
You should.
extinct soon because of Cisco.
How much plastic wrap we used in a year, and I'm not going to give you the number because it's mortifying. And then I tried out the plant-based plastic wraps. I mean, I'm talking miles. But the plant-based plastic wraps, and their fault is that anything that's corn or potato based in contact with liquid, they dissolve, they melt, they
Right.
can't hold
Oh.
up. So the seaweed thing, that makes a ton of sense. It's brilliant. I'd love to hear more about that. Actually,
I'll tell you when we get together. But you're buying.
That's fine.
And
I make hundreds of dollars a year. Don't worry, I got you.
This has been so insightful. I'm enjoying this
This
so
is
much.
fun. No, you guys are great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, you ready? Ready, Kristy? Ready
Yes.
to fire on them with these?
Yep. Let's go.
Would you like me to go first, or would you like to take this one?
You go for it.
I'm being set up.
In a good way. So what is your comfort food and why? I think I know what the answer is going to be, but you never know.
Well, that's a tough one. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to pick one of them. Dumplings. I love dumplings. I could eat dumplings all day long, every day. I never get tired of dumplings.
I did not have that on my bingo card.
Wow.
Okay. The other one was going to be pizza, but anyway. But dumplings, yeah, hell yeah.
I thought it was going to be a lobster roll.
Where do you get your dumplings?
I don't care. I'm not very discriminate. I don't discriminate really.
Okay.
Dumplings are just neat.
Yeah. Yeah, dumplings are delicious in every single way, shape, and
Even
form.
a bad dumpling passes. Yeah.
I'm gonna eat it. It's
comfort
there.
food. Oh God.
Why not? Most memorable stay at a hotel. Where were you and why was it so memorable?
Most memorable stay at a hotel. I was 2007. I was in Chicago. I believe it was the Palace Hotel. It was under
By the way,
construction.
this is a family show.
I know. My wife was pregnant with our now 16-year-old child. We had with a French woman driving across the Midwest, stopping at diners, and they're like, "Oh, you sound funny." We ended up in Chicago. We had been sleeping in horrible motels, and we hadn't slept in days. That was the best. I don't think that was again 2007, 17 years ago. I haven't had a night's sleep like that since. We even took a picture of the mattress, then realizing we couldn't afford the mattress. But no, it was amazing, and it was just, and there was again construction going on. Didn't matter. We were around people that had seen Europeans before, and we slept like it was nobody's business. It was fantastic.
You haven't slept that good since 2007?
No.
That's a long time.
Yeah, no, I know. You should. I'm only 30 years old, so you look at me. That's what lack of sleep does to you physically. Turns you into Gollum. Oh.
Oh my gosh.
It's a restaurant business.
So you weren't supposed to agree with me, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, man, you look fine. Something like that. Come on. Anyway,
you should always announce your age up. Like you look great for 65.
Okay, all right. When are you coming to town? We got to talk.
I'll be back on Saturday. I'm coming. Don't worry. It's on the docket.
What
is your must-have product to travel with? We know you travel with knives, but that can't be your must-have.
No. So that's a fine. I would say because I love traveling. I would never travel with products. I would be too excited to go to places and discover their products. So I would never bring something my own because I would be more curious to discover and learn. And I would not bring product. I was going to say heroin, but this is a family show, so.
Oh my gosh.
Adam's like, oh God, why did I invite this jacket? Assuming this
well,
is editable, right? Yeah, sorry.
yeah, we're not going to edit that out though.
We're not gonna edit that. That's too funny.
So, what are you reading right now? I mean, aside.
I'm not reading right now. I'm reading resumes right now, and no, end of year and on end of January. So I'm locked in the business side of things. So
My money was on a Hunter S. Thompson book, but
no, you're all safe. Don't worry, you're all safe. No, nothing, no reading. Sorry, sad to admit that. Yeah.
Right.
but I know you're well read, so
That was a long time ago. Before I sought the precious, I'm sticking with that analogy.
what's the best amenity you've ever received at a hotel or a restaurant?
Oh, this is good. This is very
is good. Oh, I'm waiting for this one.
Oh, I'm ready.
So at where my little Nantucket jobber, the wall Winnet out at the end of the island. I stayed there just because they were nice. It was the off season, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they called the room and asked if I can't remember what they called it. It was like kind of like happy hour, but it was like the kitchen was wondering if you'd like to try something. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, sure, sounds amazing. Any allergies or aversions? Next question. I said, none. I said, great. 15 minutes later, half a dozen oysters, 2 done one way, 2 done another way, 2 done a third way, and a glass of champagne showed up. They rang the bell at a little porch out front. They rang the bell and said, we thought you might enjoy this. And I said, good heavens, that's amazing. That's the hotel one. That was such a nice touch. That was just them being cool. Second one, I late 90s going to Le Cirque in New York City. I started dating somebody and I was pretty smitten. So I made a reservation at Le Cirque and I figured it was lunch and we went to lunch and I was wearing dress pants, dress shoes, a button down, ironed, thought I covered it. Walked in, didn't realize that there was a jacket requirement for gentlemen all day long. But instead of telling me that there was a jacket requirement, the maitre d' pulled me aside. He said, sir, may I have a moment of your time? You look wonderful today, and madame, you look great as well. Just be one moment, sir. And he looked at me, he said, you look like you're a 40 regular. That's how I found out my jacket size.
What?
I said, okay, put on the jacket. He said, what do you prefer, a gray tie, or maybe this one is a little yellow? And I said, the gray one looks great. So he pops up my collar, ties the tie for me, puts me in the jacket. He said, I think the lady will find you even more handsome. And we walked out. Now, talk about a way. This is very old-fashioned stuff. But at that point, I didn't feel like I was like, you're not dressed properly, mister. It was like, oh, we're so happy you're here. Now let's go play dress up. I don't know why that one, and that's not necessarily an amenity. That's more of a consideration. I don't know. Maybe it is an amenity. But the whole call you out of nowhere thing, and we just thought we'd bring you something if you're in the room. And I asked the front desk when I was leaving. This is when I worked there anyway. So I said, "What is that a normal thing?" Like, yep, we do it all the time. And I said, "What if they don't answer?" I'm like, well, then they don't get the little special treat. That makes sense. But if you're in the room, holy moly, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing. What a very elegant way of getting your guests into the dress code, right? Very elegant.
On the
Wow.
hotel side, what an
And the
amazingly
oysters.
creative way! What an amazingly creative way of
What a great day.
a story to tell to further their brand with glowing praise. I thought that was pretty groovy.
We'll
Yeah,
ask
go
you
for it.
one last thing. What are you most grateful for, Chef?
I'm most grateful for that point in my childhood when the world around me didn't believe in the path that I had chosen. And there was one person who believed in me and said, don't give up. and I was able to follow something that I believe and still believe in. So I'm most grateful for that moment in my youth when a very wonderful human being said, "Don't listen to them, listen to your heart and don't give up." And I took it. That was my mom, may she rest in peace. But that was a good, yep, that's probably historically that is what I'm most grateful for as it relates to this conversation in the hospitality business.
Amazing.
Personal life, there's other stuff I'm most
Thank
grateful
you.
for, but that would take too long. You said one word. I don't know how to do one word, Kristy.
No, that was fantastic. This
I'm
has been
sorry.
such a privilege and
No, thank
so
you. This is fun.
thank you.
Um, and
Thank you so much.
Chef Adam, when you hit the Bay Area, I hope that our paths will cross. That would be
Oh,
nifty.
absolutely. 25 Lusk is it
Love
never
it.
gets old. I can't wait
And
to see
Kristy, if
it
you're
again.
likewise, buddy. And Kristy, if you ever or if you are up here, just swing by and say hi. It'd be great to see you.
I would love to. I will. I'll definitely
Awesome.
come by and say hi to you. I'll bring you
All
some
right.
oysters.
Don't make
Aw,
promises. Anyway, no, take care, both of you. All right. Have a
thank
great rest of the
you.
day. Yep. Thank you
Good
very much.
service.
Have a
Talk to you
great
soon,
Thank you,
Jeff.
day.
Chef.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Take
Take
care,
care.
okay,
Thanks,
chef?
guys. Bye.
Bye. What a great guy.
Oh, he's amazing. Just
You
an
weren't
amazing
kidding.
person. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He's just got such a fantastic voice and energy and great
He's
storyteller.
probably one of the reasons that I stayed in the industry and didn't become a Lyft driver.
Yeah. Oh my God, you as a Lyft driver, wouldn't that be something?
It would not be good for anyone. The other
No,
drivers, the
absolutely
passengers,
not.
the car.
How did you meet him? How did you guys actually meet?
We worked he was at 25 Lusk and I was at Mandarin Oriental and we used to do there was a circuit of events and we would all do these events and actually no, I was at Nick's Cove and I worked for Pacoletto. He actually had worked for Pacoletto at some point. So we had that commonality and we knew the same people just from being in the industry in San Francisco and we became friends.
Amazing.
And he's one of the most generous people that I've ever met. He will literally give you the shirt off his back. I mean, it's not hyperbole. He's a absolutely truly great person.
Amazing. I mean, I love that he was just when I was asking about that question, if it's emotional in a way, anyway, he was just more concerned for his team and everybody outside of himself, and that just says so much about his leadership and who is as a person. So that's just phenomenal. A really, really wonderful person to
And
meet. Thank you for bringing him onto the show today.
oh,
Wow.
I'm really glad I did. And he's overcome like he had a personal physical tragedy
Yeah.
in his life a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he overcame that and everyone thought he wasn't going to make it. And really strong, generous person. Everyone who's come through his kitchen is lucky to have done that. And so I really, truly great chef and great friend. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
you should definitely go to 25 Lusk when you're
I'm
when you're
going. I'm
He'll
definitely
get
gonna
you drunk.
go. Yeah. When I go, I'm definitely gonna check out the food because I looked at the menu and there wasn't anything on the menu that I wouldn't eat. I would eat everything. I mean, I'm
Oh,
also that person. I just would try everything. The only thing I can't eat is bad food. So that I'm
yeah,
allergic to
you're
bad food.
that's a good allergy to have.
Right? I mean, look this. Chorizo stuffed dates. Seriously? Maine lobster guacamole?
That's a
Lo
new one.
Wow. I mean, local caviar and buckwheat bellinis. Oh, Alaskan crab claws.
Yeah,
Right?
he knows some of the classics.
And then, yeah, the whole list is fantastic. And I saw the sweets too. He has macaroons. I love
And
macarons.
his kitchen is beautiful too. It's a classic French kitchen, gorgeous. So
Fantastic. Well, for everyone that's on, listening to our show, if you're in San Francisco, go to 25 Lusk, go and taste Chef Matthew's creations. You have to try it.
there's a
Beautiful.
great space for private events, but the restaurant is just beautiful to just sit there.
Well, we're gonna go. We'll definitely go and meet there and have drinks with him. But I would love to see you guys in the kitchen together too. That would be so much fun.
It would
That
be
would be
fun.
really cool.
He drives a good kitchen.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode with Chef Matthew Dolan. We're so happy that you could be here, and I hope that you do go and visit him at 25 Lusk in San Francisco. If you live there, you are so lucky. And for anyone that's going there soon, like myself, I cannot wait to try that menu. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Hotel Club podcast with my co-host, Chef Adam Malley, and myself, Kristy Whitford. Take good care and be kind. Cheers.